Alright, our first opponent is a classic Nacht Kite. Oh boy. Why you guys do this to me? And this is... I'm not sure. Adace, or Adam on YouTube, threw this my way. LUDLOW, Harris, Laser Orbit, and the Pulse Blade. It's a fairly standard mid-frame. Don't remember the generator right off the bat. Again, build and description. However, it only really has one problem. Even against other things in its space, speed, and weight division, it has trouble catching and holding fire on them. Now, part of this is because of the mismatched weapons. The machine gun and the Harris make it kind of weird on each other. You have to kind of stop shooting the machine gun for the Harris to even out and be more accurate. This problem will not be a problem up close. As you get into mid-range, where you typically have to fight anyone who runs away from you, this becomes a colossal problem. In close, this also ends up being its own kind of issue. Because the Harris, if you get kicked, if I'm not mistaken anyway, loses the charge. Not the worst situation in the world, I suppose, but can be problematic. What really messed with me is the fact that this has the ALULA boosters. And the ALULA are really good at evasion. The counterpoint with the ALULA is that they are not good at chase, especially with a melee weapon like the Pulse Blade. Now right here we're going to see the opposite problem. The guy gets close, and then I have to deal with that. And it is a rough scenario. Now it's better than the runner, of course. In a lot of cases, that's how it goes. At that range, the Harris should have hit, and here we are, dealing with the aftermath of that. It does there, but you're just slow enough, and the hit comes out, so you don't get the punish regardless. Even if I had gotten the assault armor, all I would have gotten likely would have been a charged Harris shot, which sets up more problems. Thankfully, when they whiff, it punishes amazing. Now, I understand why the rest of the thing is built the way it is. That said, we're going to transition at this point to talking about the enemy, and not what I would do with the build. I don't honestly know a good way to fix this, outside of the one booster change I made to the FLUGEL. And that is entirely for chase down reasons. I feel like, in a lot of ways, I failed this AC, even though I know it does have problems. So, don't hold that against the design itself. This is kind of a mismatch of things that I'm just not used to using. And the only true familiarity to it was the Pulse Blade. So I did what I could. And I either need to get really, really comfortable with the Harris or the machine gun, because the machine guns should be pretty easy. With the Harris, that thing is unreliable sometimes. Now here's another good example of that. So this guy's a really good kite, and he tends to outperform this in speed in every way. Now you'll find out, I found out later he has the speed boosters, and he's a lightweight, so that makes him very difficult to deal with where catching runners goes. But at the same time, even if you've got like a 4 booster of, let's say, 370, it's still difficult to catch an RJ especially. And on a melee build, if you don't have the generator to back it up, you're just not catching them either. And I think that's the other big problem this has. Something like the, VP20D or the Santai might fix that. Barring those, one with good air refresh, something like the ABBOT, HOKUSHI, or the VP20C. Just something that gives it more chase down, because this is really a do one thing, then stop sort of AC. You get your break, you get your punish in, whatever it is, and then you're kind of in limbo for a little bit. Might even a coral generator have been better, the big one, for the better chase down with the melee weapon, if you have the melee booster. If you want to move more towards evasion, I'd change that blade to the Redshift Wave Blade, and just live with the fact that that's all you get on punish. Also would free you up to use a different arm that doesn't have quite the same melee spec, maybe more recoil, and might make actually getting the breaks a little bit easier on you. The opponent, though, this is kind of what I'm talking about. Without any ability to land those shots reliably at mid-range, and having the machine gun kind of sabotage the Harris, you can make those Harris shots hit, but you really need to have a cadence that works. So, one of those fixes would probably be where I'd start. I do get the hit here, I just don't have the Harris charge. That wouldn't have changed the match, to be fair. It just would have gotten more damage off. Would have looked a lot better on my end. You know, me being incompetent on that. Same kite situation, different booster. Now, there is a problem here. And it is one that I do not like having to deal with, but we're here, so we're going to talk about it. No matter what you do, catching a kite's going to be hard, right? So you just have to optimize your best options and go after it. If you will pay attention to his lovely AP bar at pretty much both versions of this fight, or both rounds of this fight, you'll see that he ends up far worse off than he did the first time I fought him. That's not nothing. And it may very well be due to the fact that I was able to use the melee to cancel to get closer more regularly. Now, while it is true that the ALULA have a better assault boost, having an entire melee weapon using the ALULA and not being able to lean on that option sometimes is a problem. Again, another example of that just not grabbing. Anyway, take it easy, guys. Like, favorite, subscribe, all that stuff. I will catch you later. Hope you enjoyed it.